right, good morning. 9:24 in studio with Trevor Warren. Fascinating subject this morning. Monogamy and sexual fidelity in the 21st century. If you want to contact Warren, go to corequest.ca. You've been counseling people for, how many years?
20 years.
20 years.
Yep.
And you founded CoreQuest, and you have a bunch of people that, what is CoreQuest, really?
It's a group of therapists, and we all specialize in marriage and couples counseling, specifically, yeah.
And you taught in university, and you know your stuff.
Yeah, I've been around.
Yeah, I've been around. It's fascinating. We're talking about monogamy, sexual fidelity, and it's really one of those things that's even hard to talk about with people. I mean, even having you in the studio here, seeing Mandy and Nira perk up and kind of leaning in towards you, even as if you're
creates a lot of anxiety.
Yeah, they're like, okay, what's he going to say? What's he going to? Yeah. It's fascinating. You were saying that how monogamy was kind of started way 1,500 years ago, when the church wanted to kind of, before DNA testing, all that kind of stuff, they could decide what pieces of land and whatnot were passed down through families, and the only way to determine that was through making sure you knew who the father was.
Fidelity,
yeah. Why is this so hard to even talk about?
Well, it's a sacred cow in our society. It's been so for a long time. We have a history of sexual shame and guilt that was really, we're in this kind of Puritan hangover, I call it. So even though my guess is that a lot of people are thinking about this, few people are talking about it because, it's funny, we have a lot more tolerance for divorce, but we have zero tolerance in terms of sexual fidelity, right? There is no. And we're actually, oddly enough, more willing to kill a relationship than question its structure. So I wondered about this. What's going on here? And I think it's just assumed that when you get married, that sexual fidelity is part of that. Nobody questions that. And in a place where there's no question, why would you even have that conversation, right? So
it's so absurd.
And because we talked about how sexuality really, being sexual fidelity confirms union. You're mine if I'm the only one you're having sex with. So it brings up a lot of feelings of jealousy and pain when somebody moves sexually outside of the relationship.
Well, why get married if you're not going to be monogamous?
It puts to question the whole model, right?
Right.
But we are diverse beings in terms of, even sexually, we've come a long way with, the gay community and stuff like that. And 50 years ago, coming out as a gay person, a lot of prosecution. Here in Vancouver and certain parts of the city, it's very well accepted. I think we're about 50 years behind in that in terms of the relationship model. Sexual identity, we have a lot more, embracing of that, but it's hard for anybody to even start to talk about this conversation, especially with their partner, for fear of prosecution, right? So I think it's real difficult.
Like we were saying about the last few years about coming out and being yourself and embracing who you really are inside and not hiding who you are and hiding your true feelings. Coming out of the closet, if you're gay, embrace that. Yeah. But you're saying now with fidelity and relationships, we're not even close to that yet.
Yeah, we're behind.
Yeah. And maybe there are some women listening that are like, "Oh, this is so crazy."
Yeah.
Like, why? How would you respond to that?
Well, it's a really good point. I think the truth is, masculine and feminine, men and women, are wired differently, and I think we need to include that in the equation because, what the feminine understanding is and what the masculine understanding of this and their experience, it can be quite dramatically different. So I think that's part of what makes it very confusing between the partners. We speak different languages at some level, and because I know that for the feminine, security and love is a primary context in which sexuality shows up for them. It's not so for the males a lot of the times.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like, just from talking to other guys too, that perhaps men feel like women don't appreciate the this is going to sound, Nero, don't yell at me.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
Men don't feel like women in their partner appreciates the quote-unquote sacrifice that is made with our sexual urges in order to prove our love for someone. Right. And that it's just expected, and it's not kind of really... And because of that, maybe there can be some resentment that builds up in the male mind as you go through the relationship. Because really, just because you're married or totally in love with someone doesn't mean that
you're not going to think about other women.
Yeah.
But that's when we've talked about that before. And then what is a woman supposed to do? Thank you for being monogamous?
Yeah.
Like, what are we
that'd be
supposed
nice, yeah.
But exactly, like, and from our point of view, it's like, excuse me, like the sacrifices that I've given you in terms of my love and my dedication and my monogamy as well. But I'm supposed to thank you for not going around and being with other women while we're in a relationship and in a marriage?
Yeah.
So then that causes
So it
resentment
feels-
from a
for
female
sure.
point of view.
Yeah, and that's where it gets sticky. And so I think, you know, if we're gonna, in terms of making steps forward here, it's if we can all kind of slip into a position of more curiosity about what's going on. I
Right.
think all of us can agree on what's happening, and probably a lot of us are at some level very afraid that our relationship isn't going to last. I want to make relationships last. I just think we need, instead of you know, sticking to monogamy and sexual fidelity as the primary model, which may be still quite suitable for a lot of people too. I'm not saying that it's not, but I think we need to embrace a wider range and start to get honest with each other about what our natures are, start to get really transparent, and start to be, you know, stand in our integrity in our relationships, which means just showing up fully and truly who we are.
I think that's why a lot of relationships do change after marriage, because the expectations are, okay, once we're married, it's automatic that you're not going to do this and I'm not going to do this and this isn't going to happen. And because you just get so comfortable, then you stop having those conversations. You stop being curious because it's already been set for you, because now you are, quote unquote, married.
If monogamy is a free choice of expression of loyalty, right on. If it falls into some kind of enforced compliance, which I think
If you look at the
many
divorce
times it
rates,
does.
if you look at the divorce rates,
Yeah.
that's what it would be. Yeah.
So I guess I don't think there are any really easy answers here at all.
Yeah.
I think we're in the process of evolution, as we have been in sexual identities, as we have been. I mean, everything evolves, right? The family structure has evolved, sexual identities have evolved, and what I'm doing is calling attention to relationship models and saying, okay, let's all relax. Let's just have a good look at what's really going on here, and how can we live together in greater harmony?
yeah.
You know? Because I think it's natural for us to pair. Like, having deep emotional primary relationships are part of what just seems to naturally happen too in the entire animal kingdom.
Yeah.
But also what's true is sexual, in terms of the animal kingdom, we're one of the very few that try to put sexual fidelity into one partner.
Yeah, like it's funny that we are actually, when we hear about certain species that are monogamous, it's so surprising to us. Like swans, I think swans hook up and they're together for life. But when we hear that, we're like, wow, that's so amazing. Meanwhile, the rest of the animals are just running around with each other.
Some of the research on, just so you know, like some of the research on that is, even though they pair for life, that doesn't mean they're actually sexually fidelitous in that one relationship. There's a lot
really?
of information around that.
But they
like,
pair.
They've done the DNA testing, and even though like there's some that pair for life, there's still.
They still have some fun on the side.
Yeah, interesting benefits, I guess you call that.
But it's like, for example, if you're out with your, let's say, Nira, let's say you and your husband are out somewhere at the beach, and a beautiful woman right in front of your husband, let's say it's a nude beach, takes her top off, and your husband glances over and takes a look. You'd be looking too, so you're a bad example.
I was
But,
just going to say, we both look together.
But a lot of wonderful. So show up in your truth, right?
Yeah,
in a lot of
we do.
relationships, you sometimes you see it where the woman will suddenly get furious at the man.
Yeah.
Like, how dare you look? As if it's a
No.
breach of your love.
Yeah.
And it's like the love and the sex, your sexual hardwiring are two totally different things.
See, that is frustrating. I see that in my friends, because, when you travel together and you see how the boys get in trouble for different things, and you feel like saying, you know what, no wonder they're not open with you and they don't communicate with you, because they're on such a short leash. And when someone's on such a short leash, it's going to snap sooner than later.
Yeah, and that's what I want to try to, actually stop, right?
Yeah.
Like, we have that tolerance. Just, like I say, we're willing to throw away the relationship before we question the model. So let's slow down a little bit and get curious with each other and be honest, right?
Yeah.
Are women
Wow.
meant to be monogamous? Or is it just a man thing?
Is this the last 20 seconds of the day?
Are you really going to do what the last interview did to him?
Not in all cases.
Okay.
No, I think it's. If we had more time, I would tell you a little bit more about biology and
Yeah. But basically what you're saying before is that we weren't monogamous until 1,500 years ago when the church decided that we needed structure.
Yeah, but he was still saying
Survival-
after all these years, it's like, still the men, and how men do have this sacrifice in relationships. So I'm just wondering, in some instances, are women providing the sacrifice by staying monogamous to their man?
Well, that's in the model of monogamy when you consider, right?
Okay.
It's a sacrifice when two people are supposed to stay together in sexual fidelity for life.
Okay.
If it's a wider model that we're considering, I mean, prior to monogamy, where there would be, say, multiple, like a community more oriented relationship where people were sexually active with many people and there were still primary partners, that would have been a fairly normal model.
Wow.
Right? Yeah, and that's really far outside of our conception, because 1,500 years is a long time.
Way outside.
It seems crazy, but there are still some people that do practice things like that.
Oh, wow.
Go down to Utah or whatever.
Yeah, I mean that culture. There is a subculture of the lifestyle of swingers, of
polygamists,
polyamorous people. Yeah, there's all sorts of things, but you don't see much of it because, for fear of prosecution.
Wow.
So.
And I don't want this to be the last loaded question, but do you think that in some cases the swingers are happier? Couples who swing are.
I've seen some happy couples in the lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would, do you find the men in those relationships feel much less resentment than the typical guy would in a relationship where he feels like he is suppressed?
How can he not? What kind of a
I want to hear the good doctor say it. All right.
So, do you think that the man feels less suppressed when he swings?
Oh my goodness!
I think it's really about creating conversation here. It's really about being open to ask. Like I said, there's a big pink elephant in the room, so let's be gentle with each other and start talking about it. Let's get curious. Let's get honest, right? I think that when an affair occurs, it's not so much the actual act that is the hardest part. It's the deception and the betrayal. Mm-hmm. So, and people are recovering from trust, right? So let's be honest with each other. Let's be truthful with each other. Let's be transparent with each other. And so this question, can we embrace a wider scope of models of relationship? Can we just begin to have those conversations, those taboo thoughts that we have about, when we're sitting on Wreck Beach and we see another woman, kind of the thoughts that go through. Have that conversation. Start there.
And that's the ultimate way to bring the closeness that you need to really last if you want to be a couple.
Yeah, it's that being able to trust your partner is what's going to weather any kind of crisis that you have in your relationship.
Have some fun with it. Rate them out of 10.
For sure.
Great having you on the show. I'd love to have you back sometime.
I'd love to be
if
back.
we haven't scared you away with our wild
No, this is a long conversation.
Trevor Warren, you can contact Trevor Warren from his website through the company website, a company that he founded back in 1996. corequest.ca, and I'll tweet that info if you want to look up Warren. Trevor, great having you on, man.
Thank
really
you. Can I
appreciate it.
just say about the relationship the workshop that's coming up?
Oh, yes.
There's a relationship revolution workshop coming up on December 3rd to 5th. It's going to be held in Vancouver, and we still have some spots for that. Not quite on this material that we're covering today, but it's really the 7 most fundamental essentials for getting your relationship really strong and healthy. So I invite anybody who's interested to give us a call.
And information on that
on the website.
On corequest.com, okay, or .ca.
And if someone already feels they have a healthy relationship, they can still come talk to, therapists, because it can just make it healthier, right?
I love it when people want to optimize a relationship as opposed to just crawl out of the hole, right?
Yeah, exactly. I like that. Optimize the relationship.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Thanks so much.
Trevor Warren, everybody.
Thank you.